It's not even fair to look at a video of Lance Burton and compare it to any other magician just because look at him. He's immaculate. He's perfect. He's chiseled. His technique is impeccable. Typically, when you think the word magician in your head, Lance Burton comes in. And I wish he would come in because, well, you know. So today we're going to be taking a look at an act that I think is absolutely perfect. There's absolutely no flaws in the act whatsoever. And even if there were, I wouldn't be intelligent enough to know. If you are a full-time version like me, you would see the differences in Lance Burton's act from when he initially performed it on his first television appearances to what I think is the ultimate version that you're seeing right now. And the opener is always something that gets everyone's attention because he turns a fireball essentially into a dove. So you really get a good idea as to where the act is going to go even from the very beginning. And it's not his most impressive production of the dove, but it's definitely the flashiest, and it's designed to get the audience's attention from the very beginning. Isn't smoking so cool? My goodness, I've said this in previous videos, but it just adds another dimension to his act that he's slamming a Marlboro Red. Obviously, this act is something very few of you would be able to take the individual tricks and perform for. However, I do think that you could get the overall principles and incorporate them into your own work. I've always thought watching that 3-candle production at the end of this last sequence that he's always trying to catch the flame for the third one as he produces it. He's using these Fantasio candles that I remember I convinced my mom to buy back in the day because I saw this act and I thought it'd be so cool for me to have these appearing candles and I'd look just as cool as Lance Burton. Really, I look like a mentally ill virgin. However, here, I'm always convinced that he's trying to catch that last flame and he hasn't done so yet. Notice after he makes his candle vanish, he immediately uses his right hand to grab the silk from around his neck. So now it gives his right hand a reason for holding something. It gives it the appearance of being empty, and yet he's able to go to another production of a candle right off the bat without having to adjust. So it's a very, very powerful thing, and it's the magic wand principle, essentially, that if you hold a magic wand or something with the other hand, the hand is going to appear empty just because it has a purpose. As I mentioned before, here's that apparition of that last candle that I think he's trying to catch on that flame of the flashball. Timing is key for everything. Timing is what dictates a joke to work or to completely bomb. Trust me, I know I've bombed way more than I've landed with jokes. And here you get a perfect example of that with everything essentially being timed to the background track, which is immaculate because it hits the beats perfectly and it really emphasizes those moments of magic. So the vanish, the appearance of the dove, even that torn and restored newspaper at the end, it hits the beat perfectly. Now, this is easy to do when you're on stage, and it's a lot more difficult to do when you're doing close-up magic or maybe walk around. So the way that you could take advantage of timing is through silence, through pauses, through having the participants appreciate what it is that you're doing and actually slowing down, having them understand each and every single effect. Magicians are quick to jump from here to there on every single different trick to try to squeeze in as much magic as possible, but really the less is always the better. You want them wanting more. You don't want them being satiated. I'm not saying to work in slow motion, but I'm saying to let each effect linger. Paul Harris describes it best when he says it's like hitting a bell. You want to let those vibrations actually make that noise linger as long as possible. You don't want to grab the bell and stop it from making noise, and that's the exact same thing when it comes to magic. You don't want to jump into the next effect because the participants haven't had the opportunity to appreciate the previous one. Of course, a fucking dove comes out of the newspaper. There's something unnerving about when Lance Burton looks out in the audience when nothing is happening, right? It builds anticipation and you really wonder what is it that this man is about to do next. He does this in several points during his act. He did it with the newspaper and he does it now with the silk and the actual cigarette. He just stares into the audience and it just seems weird. It seems like a mysterious dude and you don't know what he's going to do next and it's quite terrifying. You don't know if he's going to take out an AR and unleash anger upon the audience, or if he's going to make a dove appear from a candle that has previously disappeared. At least you know exactly what you're getting with the PigCake Magic Academy, the home of over 1,500 videos going over card stuff, coin stuff, everything you need to become the best magician you could possibly be. Not at the level of Lance Burton, but pretty close. Pretty close, I would say. And offer the low price of $5 a month, and I'm always uploading new content. So it's not just that. You're always getting new content, baby. You're always getting new things, fresh, innovative, and great moves, all for $5 a month on a PigCake Magic Academy. Look at the link down below. See what I mean, though? He just seems so mysterious. You don't know what he's about to do next. And this, I think, is a brilliant production of a candle, and it turns exactly as you would imagine into a freaking dove. My goodness. Everything he touches turns into fucking doves. It's like King Midas, but with doves. When I was younger, I considered getting a dove, but then I heard that they make nothing but noise, so it's not worth it when it's cacawing. And what am I going to do? Take it to school, produce it from a notebook, and then have to have a dove on me all day? It's going to die. My goodness. How could you not look at this as a budding 13-year-old full-time virgin or part-time virgin at that point and look at this and want this for your life, want you to do this exact thing for a living? And then you realize as an adult that not everybody could pull off that tailcoat. And then you discover drinking and vagina, and pretty much everything gets lost from there. However, for a small time, you want this for your life and you want to smoke cigarettes because Lance Burton smoked cigarettes and he looked super cool. The card manipulation is what sets up the latter portion of his act. And here he's actually producing the cards from smoke. That's where he started producing them from. And it's a nice callback at the end when he makes the cigarette appear. I always loved the vanish behind his ear because it's a callback to as a kid when you made a pen vanish just by placing it behind your ear as you were pretending to tap it on your palm. It's in every kid's magic book. And here he takes advantage of that in order to do a barehanded apparition of a fan of cards from behind his head. I believe in later variations of this exact same act, he doesn't produce the cigarette. He just shows it off and gets into that position, allowing the audience to have a nice little catharsis and release and actually react. But it's always a nice little thing. When I say flawless, I don't mean flawless in hyperbole or hyperbole, as our president would call it. I mean perfect. I mean, even when you think this man messed up, he didn't. He didn't mess up. Everything is carefully choreographed and calculated to make you think that maybe, oh, the perfect Lance Burton dropped the card. Haha, idiot. You dropped the card. You're not as perfect as you think you are. And of course, it's all calculated and choreographed, and he got you. He got you because that's how perfect Lance Burton is. I believe he does this with his foot in later versions of the act, where he grabs it apparently with his foot and then he turns it into a fan of cards. I might be wrong on that. However, this is still my favorite version of this Dove act. He adds and he takes away a lot of things throughout the years, but for some reason, this one really did it for me. This one is the one that gets me erect, as they say in the streets, if you catch my drift. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about my penis. Perfect ending to the entire act. It calls back to the doves again. The entire purpose of this act is to produce doves from God knows where. You got playing cards, guess what? There's a dove coming out of it. You got a cigarette? Boom, dove. Hey, guess what? Here's a candle, dove. The only thing he didn't do in this act is produce a dove from another dove. I always like to say, and I think I'm very clever when I say that perfection is impossible, but mastery is probable. Here, this is perfection. This is perfect. The entire act is absolutely perfect. The timing, everything is choreographed perfectly, and the production at the end is just, it builds up immaculately. So if you ever want an example of what perfection looks like, just take a look at Lance Burton.
I'll see you again I see you again, when 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 I see you again.